All right. Hello and welcome to Hump the Hangouts episode 460 on the September 6th of 2023, where I'm sitting on the porch in Colombia and enjoying a nice view. You can see it in the background in the reflection. Weather is quite nice. Sky is blue. Can't complain about life. What about you today, Bradley?
I'm good. I'm still trying to get this back end stuff done. So give me 1 second, man.
Got you. Sorry about that. Bit too quick. Yeah, other than that, been working a lot as usual. And also I'm super excited about Book for Life. The speeches are coming in as well. Adam also secured the venue finally. So super excited to see everyone there. And yeah, if you haven't joined yet, make sure you check it out on powerup.com and make sure you reserve your tickets while they're still available. Now back to Bradley. How are you?
I'm good now, man. You said you're excited about POFU. Well, I am too, but I'm also nervous because I'm at crunch time now, right? I got 3 weeks to finish the training, man. Finish the presentation. This happens every year. I think it's more nerve-wracking when it's live though, like in person, than it is via webinar, like we've done the last couple of years. So I always work best under pressure, but it doesn't make it any easier. You know what I mean? So
we all do, man. I think we learned this somewhere in school, university, college, or something like that. Yeah. At least that's where I picked it up.
Yeah, crunch time. So it is what it is. But yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming. I've been working on the directory hybrid agency program training since the beginning of January this year. So over 8 months. And it's coming along very nicely. I got the high level component finally figured out. It's just about done. I've got a couple of finishing touches to work out over the next 2 days, but it's pretty much done where we can be able to provide the high level accounts for our program members. They won't need to buy their own accounts. We will set it up pre-configured. It will work well for them. It covers the A2P compliance bullshit that we all have to deal with in the United States now. So it's been a long time getting to this point, but now it's just trying to get the training put together on how to work the system, because all the training that I had already developed for this was a lot of SOPs for setting up high level and all that. None of that is relevant now. It might be at a later time if somebody wants to get their own high level account. But anyway, long story short, the program is coming along nicely. I've got my team trained for the first of 3 products that we're going to sell. This 2 of them will be fulfilled by my team. The other one, maybe not so much, because it's just a conversion type of service, conversion optimization service. But we've got a project manager assigned to the fulfillment team now for that. She starts training next week. So I'm really excited because once we launch this program, we plan on really, really expanding it. So it's pretty exciting times for me.
Excellent. Just read Will Scott got his tickets and hotel reserved for POFU Live. So can't wait to see you, man.
Right on, Will. Time. Sweet.
Definitely.
Awesome. Yeah, and Cecilia, I think you said you were coming too, right, Cecilia? So I'm looking forward to it. Rick says, I think I'm finally going to join the mastermind. I've been watching since 2016. Rick, I know, dude. You're a funny guy, man. And I mean that with all sincerity, because I always laugh at your goofy Facebook posts and stuff like that, man. And so I know you just, I replied to you earlier and vetted about an order, and it looks like my project manager delivered the order to you between when I replied, sent you a message, and when you replied. No worries. So you've already got that report. But yeah, man, come join the party, dude. It's way past due.
Definitely.
So, right on. Well, we got a few questions. Craig, what's up, buddy? I'm going to go ahead and jump.
Let's do it.
Right into the questions and let's get through it. Interestingly enough, I was preparing for this call today, and I was going to pull up the Bright local search industry survey. And so I went to do a quick Google search for it, because I like to reference that often when people have questions about agency pricing and that kind of stuff. And they quietly released, and I say quietly because I didn't know about it. It probably wasn't quiet. I just didn't know about it. But they released the 2023 version of it last month in August, and I didn't even know. So I haven't even had a chance to scan through it yet. I just pulled it up. So we're going to actually look at that for a moment too. But I'm glad, because that's a highly valuable survey, in my opinion, for industry related knowledge around the local SEO industry. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. If you just go do a quick Google search for Bright Local Search Survey, it'll be the first thing to pop up. It was just released August 17th. Again, I'm surprised I wasn't aware of this because I typically look out for this. It's really good. It's really insightful. I always like to use this in presentations. I like to talk about, kind of industry standards based upon the data from these reports. That it's not done every year. Sometimes it's every other year. It looks like, I think the last time they did this was about 18 months ago, I think in March of 2022 or something like that. So it's not that they do it every year, but I think it's highly valuable. And I'll get back to this in a minute. Although, like I said, I haven't had a chance to scan through it. Local marketers average US salary, 110,000. I can tell you right now, from our mastermind, we got a lot of agencies or, freelancer SEOs or agency owners or SEO, local SEO consultants that aren't making that much money. I can tell you that right now. And that's, we also got a lot of agency owners in our group that,
that are way beyond that.
Even if they're making that much revenue, that's not income. That's not salary. That's revenue. And there's a big difference, right? And that's part of why, I'm launching this directory hybrid agency program, is to help members. I'm tired of people in this local SEO industry being broke. I'm just tired of it, man. I'm going to really hoping that this program will help some of our members, or those that join our program, go from 0 to 30K or whatever they're currently at, to a minimum of 30K in monthly recurring revenue. Now, that's not profit. That's not personal income. But my goal is to, within 6 months, to get people to 30K a month in revenue. Sometimes it'll be more, sometimes it'll be less. My goal is trying to get people to that revenue point. Because if you're working at, if you make $35,000 a month in revenue and you're working at a 30% profit margin, which is certainly doable, then even with using white label fulfillment providers, you should be able to work at a 30% margin. So that at $35,000 a month in recurring revenue, that's $10,000 a month in personal income, $120,000 a year in revenue. Actually, it's a little bit more than that. But the point that I'm trying to make is that is where you would be at what the average US salary is for local marketers, or at least according to this survey, right? So that's kind of why I want to get people to that point within 6 months. And as I said before, I know from interviewing a lot of our members that we have some members that are just crushing it, and that's great. And that's fantastic. But that in our group, that is kind of more the exception, not the rule. A lot of people that join our group are between 5 and 15K per month in revenue, monthly recurring revenue. And that's not a lot of money, especially when you're considering working at that kind of a margin, a profit margin. And that's how you pay yourself, right? Is through the margins. So there's not really a lot of revenue in that. And for the amount of money that people are making, for the amount of time that they're putting into it, it's not enough. And so again, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to get at with the directory hybrid agency program, is to overcome that, right? Get your cash flow needs met first. Then if you want to do all the crazy SEO shit, that's fine. If you love SEO and you just want to work in SEO, fine. But build a business that supports you and your family first, right? And then you can spend all your time playing around with SEO and, doing all this custom stuff. But first, get your cash flows needs met for you and your family, right? And so that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make here. And a business that doesn't work you to death, right? Like that's the point. If you have a good prospecting and sales machine in place, with a pipeline full of leads, then you can always be bringing revenue into your business. And then again, having productized services so that you can easily scale and be able to fulfill because they're productized services. That's how you can get a lot of monthly recurring revenue coming in without a ton of personnel, a ton of management required. And then once again, that just opens up so many doors. Again, my former partner, one of my former partners, Hernan, he used to always say, sales cures all. And I don't know if that was his quote, but that's who I heard it from the first time. So I always reference him when I repeat that statement, but sales cures all. And I can tell from personal experience, he's absolutely right. When you have enough money coming in, it really does open up a lot of doors. It solves a lot of problems. And that's what I see most people suffer from in this local SEO industry, is they're really not making much money. I mean, maybe they're making a decent living. That's fine. but I don't think everybody most people didn't get into this business just for their passion of SEO. Maybe some did, that's fine. But most people probably were interested in making money. So let's figure out how to make money, right? In SEO, local SEO, and in a way that doesn't work you to death. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So anyway, we'll come back to that. I just want to get into these questions, and I pulled that up for a reason. There's not a lot of questions, and this was a good one. The first one is from Christian. He says, how do you figure out your pricing model? And what do you say to prospects to show the value of your services? And it's interesting because it depends on the way you're monetizing. You know, I started off in lead gen before I ever did retainer work. So I figured out, you know, what was a kind of going rate for leads, either on a pay per lead model, or when I first started out, I did a rank and rent model. So I was leasing assets for just a flat fee. And that was really just to kind of learn the business. And I wasn't charging enough back then. Then I switched to doing pay per lead. And then shortly thereafter, I started testing revenue share, which is where I get a percentage of closed jobs or closed sales from leads that I produced for the client, but they only pay for leads that generated revenue. And then they give me a percentage. In the tree service industry, I get 10% of whatever the contract price was. And I started, you know, that was really my preferred method for monetizing. So I kind of learned through lead gen how to price retainer-based services, because I had experience with generating leads. But if you don't have any experience with that, then, you know, to be able to kind of learn through trial and error, then that's where something like this local search survey comes in, right? Because you can use the data that they pulled together to kind of price your services. But I also have a program, a training program, and I've shared this before. Let me see if, Chris, while I'm talking, can you go into Circle? I don't know how well you are with Circle, because I'm still not real good with it. But can you get I made the determining niche SOP. I believe that's publicly available. So I would, if you can, grab the link and post it in chat if you can.
We'll try.
Anyway, why I bring that up is not because I'm trying to, like, first of all, the determining niche or selecting an industry SOP that I'm referencing right now talks about how to go and select a niche and do industry research around that industry, and also find out how to price services if you're going to provide SEO services in that industry. And so I have very, very thorough training on how to do that. And I referenced the Bright Local Search Survey, but it was from last year. Okay. So, but as I'm saying, generally what I'll do is look at this kind of, I would recommend looking at what are, you know, typical local businesses paying for local marketing services. What are the average monthly retainers? Again, I've not looked at this one, the updated version, but last year it was about $1,550 per month is what their average retainer prices were for local SEO. And this is interesting. So this is what local marketers think is the most important for local marketing success. There's also a what do business owners think somewhere in here. At least there was last year. Anyway, what I'm getting at is starting off with that to kind of get an idea. What is the average cost that most local businesses pay in the United States? And last year it was $1,550. It's probably gone up this year because the cost of everything's gone up. So that's a good starting point. But then you also have to go in and research the particular industry that you've selected, if you've selected an industry, which I highly recommend. I can't stress enough how important that is in order to be able to have a scalable agency. It's so much easier to scale if you're niche specific or industry specific. So, but then go in and look, see if there are other boutique or niche agencies that are dealing specifically or providing marketing services specifically to that industry. And play a secret shopper. Right? Act as if you are a lead for that agency or those agencies, and go through their sales cycle. Seriously, go through it. Do some research, do some recon in that industry to determine what others are charging. And you can model it from that. Now, I don't say copy or duplicate, but mimic, right? You can always do that, because look, if there are other agencies that are niche specific or industry specific agencies that are serving that industry, and they have pricing, if they're doing any sort of Google ads or anything like that, then they've probably already done the trial and error to determine the price points that are acceptable by that industry. if that makes sense. And that's always a good starting point. And then when you start providing services for whatever it is that you decide to charge, you can always dial that in, refine it a bit to where it's more appropriate for whatever the products or services are that you offer. That's a good way to do it. Now, for me, like I said, with tree service contractors, I'm able to quantify the results very easily because of leads generated. Like, again, it's a totally different sales process when I'm selling retainer-based services than it is when I'm selling lead gen or rank and rent, which I don't really sell that right now. When we launch the directory hybrid agency program, I'll probably be doing a lot more of that, or on a pay per lead basis, whatever. Lead gen and retainer-based services, different pitch. It's a different conversation. What I like to do is in what I call a discovery call, because I always do a 2-call kind of sales call thing. It's a two call close, I guess they call it. I usually always have a discovery call where I ask a lot of questions. I've talked about this many times, but I use the spin selling method to ask questions: situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. That's what SPIN stands for. And it's basically a formula for asking questions where you get the prospect that you're asking. And by the way, this is a sales process that works incredibly well for high ticket items or tickets with products or services with a recurring nature, like a recurring bill, right? Because you're not just selling a product or a service, you're selling a relationship. And that's how they frame it in the book. And again, I found it to be the most useful way to sell SEO services is to go through a discovery call. And that's generally when I determine, does this prospect, is lead gen more appropriate for them, or is traditional retainer-based services more appropriate? And I ask them questions, and through me asking them questions and in shutting up and letting them talk, they do most of the talking, not me. Then I can generally through that conversation, we end up discovering whether, hence the name discovery call, whether lead gen is more appropriate for them at this current time, or retainer-based services, or a combination of both. Thus the hybrid model, which is what I've been talking about for months now. So there are times where I sell lead generation services and retainer-based services. So the point that I'm trying to make here is when I'm having that conversation, that is when I can convey the value of the services that I offer. Because for me, it's easy. My average retainer pricing for Google Business SEO services for tree contractors is $1,000 a month. That is well below the industry average. I understand that. I'm okay with that. I'm in an industry that I work with small companies, small operations. They're generally, most of the time, about one crew, one tree service crew, and the owner of the company is a working contractor, meaning he's out climbing trees, running equipment, managing his crew, etc. That is generally my client base. And so I charge $1,000 a month for Google Business SEO, and I get it. And it's, that works out very well for me because I can make it up in volume. What I don't make up in the retainer fee, I make up in volume. And because I've really kind of developed a good system that works, that's duplicatable and repeatable, it's easy to scale. Okay. And then all I have to do to convey the value to my client is say and I usually ask them, what is your average tree removal, the price that you charge for an average tree removal job? And in Virginia, most of the time, in most of the areas that I've got lead generation assets, it's around $1,500 for one tree removal job. That's the average. Interestingly enough, if I go over to Google and just do a quick search for average cost to remove a tree, this is that generative search thing or whatever. But what I like here was this one right here this is a Northern Virginia tree care contractor, one of the competitors that I compete against at times. But he says Virginia, for example, a large tree in an average front yard in Northern Virginia may cost approximately $2,500 to remove. And that is absolutely true for a tree removal in Northern Virginia because it's much more populated. There's also a lot of times you have to have cranes and things like that in order to remove them safely because you can't fell it, all that. I understand that. A lot of the more areas that aren't in the kind of urban areas, then it's more along the lines of what shows here in this old house is cost. The tree removal typically costs between $340 and $1,500. As I mentioned, most of the tree guys I talk to generally tell me about $1,500 for a tree removal job. So it's very easy for me to say the value of my service is all I have to do is produce one lead that results in a closed tree service or tree removal job, and it pays for my service for the month. more than pays for my service for the month. That's all I have to do is say one tree removal job is all that I have to generate for you, more than what you currently have to pay for my services. So it's a very easy sale for me to say that way. And so again, I like it that way because again, my industry, I deal with a lot of smaller contractors. I make it up in volume, and it's easy for me to convey the value to just be able to. And I ask them the question, like, what is your average tree removal job? What do you charge for an average tree removal job? And most of them say roughly $1,500. And that's easy. And I say, okay, well, do you realize that not all I have to do is generate one tree removal lead for you that you close with, by the way, the app that I'm going to provide, the Tree Care HQ app or the lead management app. It's going to help you to close more of the leads. The same number of leads you currently have, it will help you to close more of them because of automated follow-ups and all that kind of stuff. So all you have to do is close one more job per month from my services, and it more than pays for it. Don't you think that's worth it? And ask questions. Again, always asking questions, reinforcing, getting them to answer yes, 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 right? Nodding your head as you're asked, hey, don't you think that's worth it? You're saying that to them while you're talking to them, while you're on the sales call, right? Sometimes it's via phone, they can't see it, but I still nod anyway, because it's just habit, if that makes sense. If they're on a Zoom call, they see it. And you notice as you're shaking your head, they start shaking their head. They start nodding. It's great. Spin selling is a fantastic model for selling retainer-based services or high-ticket items. And ever since I adopted it, which again, I've talked about this before, but it's not something you're going to pick up overnight. It's going to take practice. But the only way, here's the thing, here's the rub, right? The only way that you can practice sales calls is to book more sales calls. So, it's like, it's the chicken or the egg kind of thing, paradox. People say, well, I suck at sales. Well, how many sales calls have you booked this month? Well, not many. I'm not very good at sales. Well, book more sales calls and you'll get better at them, right? How do you get better at anything? You do more of it. So anyway, back to the question. That's kind of the way that I do it, is for me, it was a lot of trial and error, to be honest. And it may be that way for you too, but a good starting point would be look at industry averages. I meant like local SEO or local marketing industry averages as a starting point, then try to figure out if you select a particular industry, which I highly recommend that you do, then you can go look for agencies, other marketing companies that work specifically with that industry and act as a secret shopper, go through their sales process to identify what they're doing. And you can model your own process after that and your pricing as just a starting point, right? You can always dial it in and fine tune it, refine it, whatever, at a later time. Okay. But it's just a starting point. Hopefully that's clear. There's other ways that you can do it, guys. A lot of times people say, like, use Google ads and try to determine like average CPC or cost per click for a Google ad. And typically it costs 3 clicks or takes 3 clicks to generate an actual conversion. So a lead. So you can figure out what your average cost per lead is. And then you can determine about how many new leads you can bring into the business in a month. And then you can kind of price your services around that. And I always do like half of what it would cost to generate for ads to do if I'm going to pitch it that way for SEO. And sometimes I do that. Interestingly enough, I've talked about this before too. It's very hard to make Google ads work for lead generation for me profitably, where I generate ads and generate leads with Google ads and then sell the leads. But I have a contractor in Louisville. That's originally why I started testing in Louisville, multiple sites in Louisville. I have a contractor in Louisville that contacted me, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago and said he wanted me to set up some ads campaigns for him. And I said, okay. And I did. And I set up and I'm only charging him $65 per lead. And in the meantime, I'm trying to finish the directory hybrid agency training to prepare for POFU Live and everything else. I don't have a lot of time to work on the SEO assets that I had already built in that area. I just don't have a lot of time for it. So I said, fine, because he called and said, look, I need more leads coming in. Is there anything you can do? And I said, look, I can set up an ads campaign because I was honest with him and said, I've got a big event coming up this month. I don't have a lot of time to work on SEO for you. Sorry. But if you want, I can set up a Google ads campaign, $65 per lead, blah, blah, blah. And I thought I would do that just supplemental, like in the meantime, while I was waiting to get back to working on some SEO assets for this guy. And so I set up the campaign like 10 days ago, not even 10, maybe 10 days, whatever. In the last 14 days, it's been set up. And I just went into my Google Ads account today, was analyzing the data, and I'm actually generating leads through Google Ads for him. I've generated 13 leads for him for $48. Yeah, $48 per lead right now. So, and I'm charging him 65. So I'm actually profitable on ads right now, generating leads, which is very rare in tree service stuff. I've not been able to do that usually. Maybe it's just the area. It's not as expensive. I don't know, but my cost per lead or cost per acquisition is $48 right now, which is pretty good because I'm actually profitable on those ads. And again, I was just planning on breaking even just to keep him happy until October when I could start working on his SEO stuff again. But I'm actually profitable right now. So there is hope, I guess, in Google Ads still. That's anyway. All right, moving on. He says, in the event that the business.site is no longer available, is it fine to point citation links to the G site? I don't know. Maybe I've not tested with that. I would want to test with that before saying yes, Heath. But I would say use the Google Maps share URL. That's what I do. If a Google Business website is not available, like a client submits a project without a Google Business website, then we set up Citation Vault to the Google Maps share URL because that's available, right? So it's either going to be one or the other. I've not tested with the G. If it's a branded G site, then yeah, you could test with it. I've not tested, so I don't know. I would test with it before giving you a definitive answer. As long as it's the branded G site, you could probably do it. And it would probably, I don't know if it would be helpful or not. Here's the reason why I do what I do with Citation Vault, guys, because I always talk about, let me see for 1 second. Let me pause this. Give me 1 second. Here it is. Yes. All right. So I always call these the 3 tier 0 assets, right? Because these are the 3 components that make up the local entity, which would be the money site, organic side, Google Business Profile, map side, and the Google Business website is like a bridge that connects organic to maps. That's the way I like to look at it. So I call those the tier 0 assets because they're the components that make up the local entity, self-hosted site and the Google Business assets. Now the G site is an extension of the brand, right? That's what I call a tier 1 branded asset. I've not tested Citation Vault links to tier 1 branded assets. It may produce an effect. I don't know. You'd have to test. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. I know you mentioned the map share URL is the other option, but now that a lot of business.site pages are no longer available for new GBP profiles, but they are available. Is this the viable option or something worth testing? But they are available. They are available. I don't know how to be any more clear about that. Let me share with you guys this again. And I know, Heath, you're no longer in our mastermind, so that's probably why you don't have access to this. I'm going to share in chat both of these. So here's a YouTube tutorial playlist where I show how to optimize the Google Business website and all of that, but also how to access the Google Business Profile Manager from the SERP or how to force it. If these two don't work, then I always point to this, which I did not publish this. Whoever this gentleman is, Tim something or another, published it. But this, every time I've sent this to somebody that says that they can't access the Google Business website anymore, they're able to access using this method, which is just a short SOP post about how to access the Google Business website. Okay. And it's been so helpful that I even commented. I never comment on posts ever, ever. And I did this time because I was appreciative of how helpful this post has been. So I have shared this with dozens of people. I'm not kidding. And everybody's come back and said, man, that worked. Thank you. So I wanted to thank Tim, whatever his name is. So anyway, I'm going to put this in chat. You guys can try that yourself. Should be in the replay as well. But yeah. And by the way, if you guys end up doing it and find it did work for you and it was helpful, share it on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Give the guy some love. You know what I mean? I'm always appreciative of somebody that produces something so helpful like this that makes it free. You know, give them some love. So anyway, but back to your question, Heath, it's worth a test to try G site or even an ID page. Think about that. I've not tested that, but that would be my first choice over a G site would be an ID page. No kidding. Because again, an ID page, think about that. At least if you host it the way that I always host ID pages on Amazon S3. I've been doing that since I developed the ID page method in 2019. And that's not a joke. I've always kept them on Amazon S3. So that would, and I think of the ID page as the entity home, so to speak, which again, if it's a typical money site, I'm going to canonicalize that ID page to the money site. So, but if you want the ID page to appear in search results, which in some cases you want it to, then I would canonicalize it to itself, if that makes sense. But that would be my first choice over a G site. A G site would probably be a good test too, but I would probably test with the ID page also as an alternative option. So anyway, hopefully that's clear, guys. Will Scott says, I've used that hypertricks tactic a handful of times. It's 100% for me. Yep, that's what I heard, man. I've not heard any other problems whatsoever. From some of the other methods that I shared, which are just simple methods that some people come back and say, man, I still can't get it to show up, which is just deleting the website from the profile, saving it. If you have a regular website and the Google Business Profile Manager is not showing, you just go in and delete the website, save it, come back a few minutes later, open up the editor again to edit the deep business details, and then you go down and it has a prompt that says create a website, a free website with Google or something like that, and then it takes you in a Google Website Manager. When you click the button, then you publish the site. After the site's published, you go back in to edit your profile settings again, and then you can clear that and add your regular website URL back in. And that had worked for most people, but sometimes people say that still doesn't work, and so then I point them to this. And it works. That's what I've heard. So yeah, anyway, moving on. Okay, so Gregory says, hey guys, looking to get into freelancing and white label SEO. What are some simple services I can provide on something like Legiit that agencies would be willing to pay for? I was thinking about cloud stacking gig, a monthly add-on to power up with links each month. Yeah. I mean, link building gigs, as long as you know what you're doing, you can link building as a good business. There's definitely a demand for it. There's no question. But make sure you have a skill that is actually going to produce a result, right? Because there's so many people that just sell garbage on these marketplaces that don't have any, they look cool. Like their fucking graphics are awesome, right? Man, that looks like that would work, but they don't do shit. Like I'm not going to point anybody out or say anything, but just, make sure you got a system that a product that produces something, right? Link building is always good. Content services, analysis, like audits, things like that. Schema generation, that's something I'm not great at. I'm really kind of basic when it comes to that. So every now and then, if I have some advanced schema stuff to do, I will hire somebody to do it for me. Just because I really don't have the desire to learn that shit right now anyway. So yeah. One thing I would recommend is if you're going to do freelancing or white label, more so white label than freelancing, is make sure that you have a productized service, something that is scalable. Because if you're going to be, I mean, again, unless you're just happy to just trade your own time for money, in which case, by all means, you can be the one doing the fulfillment. But if you're going to be selling on marketplaces, I recommend having productized services, creating a process, so systematizing or creating a process for you, whatever it is that you do, and then training others to delegate that out. Because then you can focus on marketing to bring money in, right? To bring customers in, and you have a team that fulfills for you, right? Again, guys, nobody's going to care about as much revenue in your business as you do, or care about the revenue of your business as much as you do. Nobody else is going to care about that. So, instead of being the technician behind the curtain, always, doing all the SEO work, you should be out in front generating new revenue. That's what I think a business owner's primary role is, at least initially, seriously, is generating new revenue. As a business owner, you also have to manage and all of that. You have to lead, you have to manage, you have all that kind of stuff. But in my opinion, the most important role of a business owner is generating new revenue, at least initially, because that's where you make money, right? The fulfillment is required. You have to fulfill. If you have any integrity, you're going to fulfill to your best abilities or the best of your team's abilities for your clients, your customers, et cetera. But Your role should be focused on marketing and sales because nobody else cares about the revenue of your business as much as you, right? So I think that's the most important role. I truly do. That's why I still have yet to give up sales. I've tried a couple of times and I just can't do it. I still do all of the sales for all of my businesses because it's that important. I want to get myself out of there. I've been whining about that for a year now. No shit. Still do all the sales because it's that important, you know, in my opinion. Anyway. Cloud stacking gig would be a good idea. Any kind of thing with links, I think, as long as it produces an effect, you should have no problem selling it. Gary says, hey guys, if you had a heap of domains that were aged with good links and niche specifics or niche specific, and you had mass page and content capabilities, would it be beneficial to create lots of listings with NAPs and map embeds? All the surrounding content will be relevant, both about the core industry, but also have some local geo content like text and images. Would this help move the needle from your experience with the map pack? Yeah, I mean, okay, for niche specific domains, so you're talking about domains with topical relevance. Yeah, it'll have a slight influence on maps. This is the other diagram I show all the time, so stand by. But shit, you guys weren't even seeing my screen, were you? I guess it didn't matter. I wasn't really showing anything anyway. This is what I was talking about earlier in case it was still paused. Let me pause for one more second and then I'll open up the other diagram. Sorry, guys, I had my screen paused. My fault. Let me get the other one. Just give me a second, guys. I got to get into another browser. All right, here's the other one. So links with topical relevance have more of an effect on organic, slight influence on local. One is a local project, but links with local or geographic relevance have a lot more. I know what you're asking. You're asking, can you take topical domains and add a geographic component to them by just doing NAP stuff? Yeah, I mean, that's still helpful because it's more the topical relevance and then the citation. Remember, guys, a lot of SEOs think a citation is a business directory listing. No, a citation is a mention, a published mention of a business. Name, address, phone number, oftentimes a website link URL is associated with that. So it's usually 4 data points, name, address, phone, and website, really. We call it NAP. But a citation is not a business directory list. A citation is a published mention of those data points. Doesn't even have to be a link, right? So again, press releases, published press releases that have the NAP section, those are all citations. They're not business directory listings, but they're citations. Does that make sense? So I can understand trying to add, like adding citations to a niche relevant domain or post could be beneficial, yes, but it's not actually geographically relevant. Like, in other words, it's not providing geographic relevance or local relevance. It is just a citation. It's actually providing topical relevance with a citation. Does that make sense? That would be interesting to test. I've not done a lot of that because I usually just do topical posts or geographic posts, not try to mix the two. Would be worth a test. Do I think it would work? I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, definitely the topical relevance would help. Additional citations, yeah, they help, not like they used to. They're not nearly as effective as they used to be. That's why press releases don't move the needle for maps as much as they used to. But it's definitely worth the test, right? When I'm talking about links with geographic relevance or local relevance, I'm talking about links from other sources that are literally geographically relevant to the target. In other words, they're in close physical proximity, right? Like, and I've heard this question before. People say, well, what if a local business website is in Virginia, a local business in Virginia's website is hosted in California, and they link to your other local business or your local business client that's in Virginia? How is that a local link? Well, because it's not where the site's hosted. It's a link coming from an entity that is part of a local business in the same general geographic area. That's what provides the geographic relevance. If that makes sense. It's not the location of the website or where it's hosted or anything else. There might be some influence from that too. I've not tested with that, but I'm talking about getting links from entity assets that are associated with a local entity in close physical proximity to the target. That is a link with geographic relevance, and that has more of an impact on maps. in my experience, right? And from analyzing literally thousands of backlink profiles now for local search queries, that's what I found. Top ranked organic competitors generally have really relevant link profiles, at least in competitive keywords or markets or areas. Usually the top ranked maps competitors have a number or particularly strong links from local sources. And that's why they're ranking at the top of maps. That's, at least from a lot of analysis, that's what I've been able to determine. Hopefully that's clear. Would this help me with the needle? I don't know, but it's definitely worth the test. A lot of times, guys, these hypothetical questions, when you ask, do you think it would work? All I can do is give you a guess. And I'm going to tell you the same thing every time. Test it. I'm not going to make a statement, say, yes, it will or won't, unless I've actually tested it myself. Right. It's a good hypothesis though. Okay. Sean says, and we only got 2 more and then we'll get in the comments, guys. Sean says, hey, Bradley, when building tier 1 branded assets, YouTube channel, Instagram profile, etc., for a nationally branded multi-location business, would you create an asset for each location or just one for the whole site? Great question. One for the whole site. I am asking because I'm unsure if I should be linking each location Google business site to its own YouTube channel or all of them going to just one main branded asset. Again, I like to start with just doing branded assets only that aren't location specific. And then as I'm adding locations or optimizing locations or whatever, the ones that don't perform as well as I would like them to, or as quickly as I would like them to, then I can go in and add location specific branded assets. Because it's okay to have branded assets for the entire company or brand or whatever, and then also have location specific branded assets. But I don't recommend coming out of the gate with that. That's an enormous amount of work. With multi-location projects, just create branded assets first and foremost, and just run with those. Right? For all locations, you link to those as part of your branded assets, right? Reinforcing the entity, corroborating data. I always talk about this, the 3 levers: entity, association, relevance, and corroboration, right? So you're associating entities and you're corroborating data, right? So we're pulling 2 of those 3 levers with what I call assisting with discoverability, informing the knowledge graph, expanding the entity footprint. All of those things mean basically the same damn thing, which is, again, with a multi-location business, I'm always going to start with one branded network, and then I'm going to use that until I identify which locations are not moving as quickly or as much as I want. And then I can go in and add location-specific branded assets for that particular location, if that's clear. But that way you're only doing the additional work when it's needed, right? Minimum viable product, whatever. Do the minimal amount to achieve the desired result. That way you always have more in reserve for when you need it. Okay. And it reduces costs and workload and everything else. Anyway, hopefully that's clear. Yeah. And then again, if you end up doing location specific assets, you can always go back and change like from within the Google business website and stuff, what you're linking out to, you can link to the location specific ones as well. Okay, Coco says, I have a national branded website with each location page of the services page. I have a national branded website with each location page of the services page. Okay, can I send the bulk of my backlinks to the services page and the link juice will flow to all of my location pages? Yes. And less backlinks on each location page? Yes. And that's a great strategy. That's a great method. I completely changed how I do all my backlinking to sites and how I structure my website specifically based upon what you're asking in your question there. And that's how I do it. I create a service or product or service, what I call a topical silo on the site now, and then a location silo. And I know in traditional silo training, we talk about not cross-linking between silos. I threw that shit out the window. I've done a ton of testing with it. And as long as you're keeping a topical or product or service silo and a location silo, you can cross-link between them and it causes no problems. In fact, it makes your job so much easier as an SEO because you create, again, association, entity association, lever number 1. You're creating associations between the products and services, products or services, and the locations through internal links. And then you can build links to the service, product or service pages where the locations are listed, right? And it flows through. And now I'm doing a top-down internal linking structure, scheme, whatever you want to call it. I used to always do a bottom up where I would always build, like essentially I would always link from the post level up to the next level up in the silo, and then from there to the next level up. So it was always linking from the lowest point in the site upward. And that's because of the way that I used to syndicate content and use branded or syndication networks and all of that. And we would just hammer syndication networks with bulk kitchen sink spam, like no shit. And all we would do is publish blog posts on the money site, which would syndicate out to the branded network. And that would be the bottom up linking approach. That's why I did all of my internal linking that way. But then through a lot of testing over the last 2 years now, I've discovered that it's just, things have changed, right? So that method is no longer my preferred strategy. Instead, now I like to do exactly what I just described, a product or service silo and a location silo. I cross-link between the two. I've got no issues doing that whatsoever. And then it gives you all kinds of different and unique linking opportunities. You can link to the product or service pages with topical links or target or topic anchors and target anchors. So those are keyword-based anchors that can push through to the location pages. Mostly topic anchors at that point. That's keyword only. So product or service keywords without location modifiers. Target anchors are keywords with location modifiers, but you can go broad at the kind of service page levels. And you know, like, anyway, I'm getting too far into the weeds. On the local pages, then you can hit those with branded links or anchors, which I typically recommend first. And then you can hit it with a few target anchors, keyword plus location modifier. But you only need a few of those because you're pushing most of the relevance through backlinks pointed at the service pages with more branded and topic anchors, right? Again, topic anchors are keyword only, because now you're pushing power and relevance into the service pages, which will distribute out through the internal links to the location pages. Then the location pages you hit with individual branded anchors and a few, not many, target anchors. And you can see that shit just, it works really well. And that's part of the reason I started testing that structure, was because my links aren't cheap, not like they were when I was buying bulk link spam, which that really turned out not to be cheap. Initially it was, but with bulk link spam, you have to buy so much of it. And you have to constantly, like every month or every couple of months, you have to buy another big bulk spam gig in order to keep replenishing all the links and it just doesn't work as well as it used to. So it ended up being more expensive. So when I started Semantic Links and started using links that cost more to produce, I needed a way to reduce the number of links that I needed in order to move the needle. And so I started testing with site structure and internal linking and looking at other sites that were ranking really well in my own local area. I've talked about Culpeper Home Services, which has been bought out by a FH Fur Plumbing or some shit. They had an amazing site structure that just ranked all over the place. And I studied that son of a bitch for weeks. I'm not kidding. And modeled a lot of my own site structure that I use now from that site, because it was just brilliant. And it gives you so many different ways, targets that you can link to in different ways. So you can push relevance in different parts of the site, either location relevance, topical relevance, a number of things. Again, as I point out here, right? So again, yeah, I agree totally. Doing this kind of stuff, plumbing services, you can hit that page right there with topic anchors. So keyword only, product or service, and brand anchors. Always go heaviest on brand, period, flat out. Okay. But then on your individual location pages, you can hit those with brand and some target anchors. Don't, again, sparingly. Because remember, guys, you can also take your tier 1 links, whether they're brand links or even if they're keyword links, it doesn't matter. But you can build target and or topic anchors to those at tier 2 and or tier 3. Right. So again, you can push a lot of relevance through a branded anchor, and a branded anchor is a much safer way to link directly to your money site. I don't care where you're linking to your money site. It's a safer way to do it and more appropriate. And again, from all the data, guys, just the literally thousands of search queries that I've now analyzed the backlink profiles of the top 5 ranking competitors for thousands of local search queries by now. I'm not kidding. And the vast majority of the time, it's the top 5 ranked the average anchor text ratios of the top 5 ranked competitors for whatever search query I'm analyzing is going to have the highest percentage of their anchor text profile in the brand / URL category. And so again, that just makes it so much easier for us as SEOs, because if you're ever in doubt as to what kind of link or anchor text to build directly to the money site, just go with a brand anchor. I don't like to use URL anchors. I've talked about that before. I think anchor text should be descriptive of what it is linking to. So I don't like to use URL anchors. I also don't like to build generic or miscellaneous anchors. I think that's dumb. I really do. If naturally, you should get those in your anchor text profile anyway, through like citations and stuff like that, business directory listings, etc. Less backlinks for each location bid. Yep, that's exactly why I started testing that method, and it works great. So anyway, all right, guys, we're gonna get in the chat. We got 10 more minutes, so I agree, David. I saw your comment. He said sometimes all you need to rank is one link, and that is correct. Chris dumped off. It's just me. Wow, I'm on my own. You guys all still here? That's all right. I can handle it. Cecilia Hanoff is smart and as hardworking as you are. She'd be 10x that. Yeah. Cecilia is amazing. I can't tell you how many times I've said that to you a bunch, Cecilia, and I mean that with all sincerity. I appreciate you very, very much. I just had a call with one of our new mastermind members, another female, which is kind of rare. Maddie is her name. I don't know, Maddie, if you're listening, hi. It was a great conversation we had today. But she just joined the mastermind within the last week or so. And I was telling her, I was like, look, I always say this on our mastermind onboarding calls. I tell our new members, I say, listen, if you have any questions at all, post them. Don't hesitate to post questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I know that sounds cliche, but I mean it because we are here to help. And if I can't get to the question immediately, somebody else will. And that's why I brought this up, was because of Cecilia. I said, you being a female, and I was talking to Maddie, the new member, I said, you being a female, you're going to be outnumbered in our group. The SEO industry is a very male-dominated industry, and she's, yes, and I said, but fortunately, we have a member in our group named Cecilia Hanoff, who is fantastic, and she jumps in and answers questions before I can and all this, and I was like, so maybe the two of you can click. So Cecilia, maybe you can give her a warm welcome. She's kind of young, and my guess is, she's outnumbered. So anyway. Let's see. Any new speaker announcements for POFU? No. Is it the TK post? Terry Cow post? Is that what you're asking about? I'm not sure. Oh, Tim something for Hypertricks. That must be what you're asking about. Tim something. What's his name? Tim. I don't even know what his name is. It's Tim something or another. Anyway. Great post. You can build ID pages on Blogger pages for a fun time boost. ID pages on blog. You can build ID pages on Blogger pages. Huh. I'm interested in that, David. I'm curious about that. For a period of time there, I was using the shit out of Blogger, man. And it was, God, it was crushing it for about a year, maybe a little bit more. And then sometime, I don't know, I think it was this year, but sometime everything's such a blur because I work so goddamn much. But at some point I started noticing just Blogger just tanked as far as performance. So I really stopped using it as much. We still build the branded asset and all that, but I'm not using that as like a critical component for like link building and all that other kind of stuff. But I always thought Blogger's a Google property, so we ought to be able to manipulate that. It ought to be beneficial. And that's why I used it for so long. For, like I said, about a year, maybe a year and a half, a couple of years ago, it was performing incredibly well. I talked about this many times, but you could create a Blogger post, a really well-tuned, well-optimized content post, and then just hit it with bulk link spam, straight up blog comment spam. Like, no kidding. I don't ever recommend doing that to branded assets, but create a non-branded Blogger. You publish a well-tuned post, very well long-form post is what I was able to achieve this with many times. And then you just, there's a Fiverr gig, a particular Fiverr gig that I use called up to top is I think the name of the guy's username or whatever in Fiverr. And he has a blog comment gig. It's straight up blog comment spam, but it's like, it was $15. It's probably more now, but it was like $20 or something to get the add-on. And it was like 60,000 blog comment links. But he would end up delivering it over like the course of, a month or 6 weeks, you'd end up looking at the backlink profile to the Blogger post URL, and it would have like 100,000 plus links. No kidding. Straight up comment spam, but it would rank. I mean, I ranked dozens of Blogger posts that way for clients, just doing that. Well-tuned content on a Blogger and then hitting it with straight up comment spam using the same gig from Fiverr every time. And it ranked every fucking time. Like, I'm not kidding. And, but then all of a sudden they just every one of those posts just dropped. I don't know if it was a link penalty or a blogger thing or what. But I just kind of abandoned that because I haven't seen it. But if you know something that I don't, David, about how to manipulate Blogger, I'm all ears, man. So let me know and we'll schedule a meeting. You can share it with me. How about that you test it and share with us the results? I hope you were talking to the guy asking the question, David, not me. I don't mind testing stuff and sharing the results, but right now my plate is full. I can't take on anything else at this time, not until after the event and we get the DHA program launched. I'm struggling to rank an auto repair shop GMB and also organic ranking in a very competitive market. Any ideas? Craig, schedule a call with me, man. Like for real, go to semanticlinks.io, schedule a sales call with me. Whether I'm serious, I'm offering this to you. This is not for everybody. I'm talking to Craig. Okay. Go to semanticlinks.io, schedule a sales call with me. When I confirm the appointment, it will send you an email that has a competition analysis form that you fill out, put the project details in that you're having trouble with. My team will generate a competitive link intelligence report. And then on our sales call, I'll review it with you. You can ask me questions and I'll tell you what I see, at least from an off-page standpoint. That is not an audit. It is a backlink profile. I might, through our conversation, be able to identify a couple of other things. If you need a full SEO audit, which includes 4 parts: entity analysis, part number 1, which it always should be. On-page optimization for the self-hosted site is part number 2. On-page optimization for the Google Business Profile is part number 3. And lastly, off-page, which is backlinks, is part number 4. It's a 4-part local SEO audit. It's 21 points. It takes me every bit of 2 hours to prepare the audit and record the review video. But ask any one of my audit clients if they found value in that. And I only charge $150 for that, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I do that for a reason, because although I'm not getting paid enough for my time to do that, it generally always results in additional business for me. That's why I can do it at a lower cost. And because I understand how valuable it is to people. Sometimes you can't see the forest through the trees, Craig. And I'm not talking to you specifically. I'm talking to everybody. Sometimes you just need another opinion, right? To be able to look at a project to see something that you're not seeing. And so I would encourage you, either schedule a sales call with me, which is mainly going to be an off-page analysis that we're going to discuss in our call. Or you can order a local SEO audit. You can get it from Vetted, or you can get it directly from me at Semantic Links. If you join Semantic Links, register for a free account, get into the dashboard, you can order a local SEO audit. It's $149. And I'll send it to you within a week, 7 days. And again, it takes me 2 hours, sometimes longer. I just did one from one of our mastermind members, and it took me 2.5 hours to do that one. I just sent it to him yesterday, actually. So anyway, I'm not saying that I'm going to solve your problem. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm going to give you all of my opinions on what you can do to improve the results for that project. And that's what the audit is for. But your call, man. You can do one or the other. Okay. Power up your map links are gangbusters for organic boosting. Google Pages is fire. Okay, guys, sweet. We're done, and we're 2 minutes early today. That is very rare. Usually we're over. So appreciate you guys. There is a Build with Bradley meeting tomorrow, and Harry, my partner now at Tree Care HQ, he's coming on. We're going to discuss together. It's a discussion group, so everybody's going to discuss it. But we have a couple of things that we definitely want to use as the discussion topic for tomorrow. So that's tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see you guys there. Some of you,